To those who have accidentally killed someone, what went wrong? My dad is a garbage truck driver in a major city. A few years ago, there was a dead and crushed homeless man found at the dump. They went through the camera footage and the tickets for the trucks coming and going and narrowed it down to my dad's truck who dumped the man. The guy was sleeping in a dumpster. For those of you that don't know, there's a packer blade in the back of those trucks to squish the garbage to make more room. He didn't stand a chance. Damn, they really did him dirty telling him that. They could have just checked the security cam, made sure it wasn't foul play, and kept quiet. Unfortunately, he would found out regardless. They needed the garbage truck for the short investigation. It also apparently needed a pretty good cleaning inside, which he would discovered at the end of the day anyway when he went to muck out clean behind the packer blade. No, but I thought I did for almost 2 years. Very close friend of mine. The kind of guy that always seemed to be happy and everybody just loved him. Was hanging out at his place. We were 16 back then, and for whatever reason I don't remember. I showed him how to tie the hangman's knot. 3 days later he was dead. His mom called, claiming he hung himself, and it was all my fault. Fucked me up badly. My friend was dead. I never saw anything coming, and apparently it was even my fault. Almost 2 years later we found out by coincidence that he killed himself with exhaust fumes in his mom S car. I lines never know why he did it, which still haunts me sometimes, or why his mom blamed me with wrong accusations. Never could be angry about that though, given how painful that must have been for her, or how she knew about that stupid knot. That's really fucked up of her. Even if she was going through grief/trauma, I wonder if she just had to blame somebody else knowing it was her car he used. Which doesn't make it her fault, but it's very interesting that she then projected it onto Opus. Horrible all around. She went as far as to claim he hung himself. That's definitely fucked up. I asked my college roommate to drive my car since I was tired. Not sure what happened as I was asleep, but he ended up hitting an oncoming vehicle head on at around 60-70 miles per hour. I was the only survivor. His parents were extremely helpful in forcing me to accept that it wasn't my fault, but my heart breaks regularly for his lost potential. He was an incredible guy and would have done great things. I'm sure of it. They likely fell asleep too. I stupidly once drove to work tired and had a macro sleep. It is terrifying. I was lucky to have drifted slightly off the road and not into oncoming traffic. I've dozed off a couple of times when I was younger and had some close calls. It is so scary and dangerous. One time I saw a car in front of me, but I was a passenger. I noticed they were swerving, and I said it out loud and really wanted to hit the horn, but it happened so quickly the car in front went across the road, into the ditch, and up somehow doing a 360 flip, and proceeded to hit a tree. Later I found on Facebook news pages that the guy made it, but the cause was falling asleep. Rock climbing in Nevada. I was securing the line. Paused to sneeze. My friend prematurely switched lines without me giving him the thumbs up. He fell over 100 feet. I haven't climbed since I was 18. I'm 51 now. This one makes me so sad. RIP your friend. I love climbing, but geez that's rough. In Dutch we say non-geluk zit in clean hoogte. An accident is in a small corner, which kinda means accidents happen by the smallest things somehow. You can't control everything. This never happened to me personally, but my dad drove for Toronto subways and streetcars for 30 years. The amount of suicides he's seen is astonishing. Just last month a mother and her newborn jumped. Both passed away. My dad has always had therapy once a week my entire life. I understand why. I take the TTC to and from work. The number of personal injury at track level announcements really seems to increase in the winter. It's so sad. And I really feel for your dad and the other drivers. What a terrible thing to witness and feel so powerless over. Hadn't heard anything about that mother/newborn you mentioned. Not that they ever say anything about any of the jumpers. But that is particularly horrific. Yes. Those announcements happen multiple times a week. It's horrific. You usually never hear the worst ones unless you know someone that works there. They try to keep it hush hush as to not trigger any other employees and to have respect for the family of the dead. Also, those supply rooms you see by the subways, those silver doors that aren't labeled, they have body bags in there. When they jump, workers must go into those rooms and put what's left of the victim in those body bags, and they store them in there until help comes and collects the bodies. It's actually really messed up. A crazy wasted guy broke into my house several years ago. He had a knife and was threatening me. My young son and I were the only ones home. I heard noise in my house and grabbed a baseball bat I keep under my bed and went to investigate thinking it was probably nothing. The guy came at me yelling incoherently and almost as a reflex I cracked on top his head with the bat. I think my adrenaline must have put more into the strike than I thought I was doing, and the guy dropped immediately. I called 911 and police arrived quickly, but he was already gone. Crushed skull. I still have nightmares fairly often, but can't picture how else it would have ended without me, and possibly my son being attacked. Survival instincts are strong. I'm sorry that happened to you. You were defending yourself and your family from someone armed and unpredictable. I hope you find peace someday. If they come at you with a knife, unless you have a gun, to put them down like a rabid animal, you either run away, or in this case, if you have a bat, bash his head in. This is fight or flight response obviously. It turned out a new co-worker lived in the same apartment complex as me across town. She had just moved to the area a few weeks back. We actually ended up going to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows PT1 midnight screening together. She was a really passionate fan of Potter. It was great. Her car was in the shop suddenly one day, so I told her at work about a shortcut she could take home on her bike. She went that way and was killed by a drunk driver crossing that other road. She was 26. Guy was going 75 in a 35 zone trying to show off his souped up sports car. Sorry for the shortcut. And it wasn't your fault my friend, it really wasn't. I didn't accidentally kill them, but I was riding home with a friend of mine on our bikes down the turnpike when a senior citizen who didn't check their blind spot changed lanes and sent my friend into and over the guardrail into a tree, severing his spine on impact, paralyzing him from the shoulders down, ribs puncturing his lungs as well. I just had to sit there and listen to him gasp and struggle to take his last few breaths on our linked intercom headsets. Fuck man, absurd the elderly can still drive past a point. Honestly, it's absurd that we don't require everyone to get relicensed at regular intervals. My 75-year-old father has to get a medical certificate and new license every year here in Australia. He bitches about the cost, sorta fair, but there is a very valid reason why such rules are in place. Same with my mother, but she just changed doctors and found one who signed the certificate when hers wouldn't. At the same time, she was calling people to tell them her car wouldn't work, and the police called me when she was trying to start her car with her house keys. We had to lie to her and force her into a nursing home, but I don't feel bad about it. This happened to my uncle back in the 1970s. He was coming home from work one night in a snowstorm and turned onto his road. His house was on the other side of a hill. He climbed the hill, and as he started descending the other side, he heard kids screaming and yelling. Brakes were useless. He ran over a 10-year-old kid who was sledding down the hill in the middle of the road and killed him. It was his next door neighbor. There was no charge against him. Nobody sued him because it was clear that it was a freak accident. Even the kid's parents told him it was not his fault. However, my uncle, 53 years old, a WWII-USMC combat veteran of the Pacific War, previously strong-willed, clear-headed, and not a drinker, drank himself to death in less than a year. Tragic all the way around. Stories like these are why I was never allowed to play in the road when I was a kid. My neighbors were, and I thought my parents were just being overly strict. But as an adult and parent now, I get it. We lived in a dead-end street on a hill. Cars used to come flying down there thinking they could avoid the traffic. And when they realized it was a dead end they would speed up to turn around and get back to the top of the street. There's a place in Beijing where a major highway just ends. Like there's a 4 lanes in each direction highway. And then there's this 1 kilometer stretch we drive on right here, with a median divider, and to your left these confused people slowly driving back up in the opposite direction. You get to the turnaround point and it's just a dirt wall and a forced stuff. People encountering it for the first time do is bonkers. Cause people are on their phones, texting and sexting, or whatever. Open road. Full speed ahead. Look up, wait what? Crash into dirt wall. From what I understand that's how I-70 highway is in the States. I lived in Baltimore, but never did go to see where it ends/starts. Due to opposition it was never built any further and now it ends at a park and ride where you can leave your car. This was a hockey accident when I was 19. I'm 36 now. I shot a low slap shot and there was a net battle and my friend on the other team got shoved. Fell over and the puck hit him in his temple and shattered much of the structure. He died later because of the bone fragments in his brain. I stopped playing for a long time after that. Now I play men's league and wear his number. Edit. Didn't expect to receive tons of comments and DMs. They're a lot to reply to and really heavy to remember. Emotions came up that I haven't felt in almost 20 years. I'm really thankful for the outreach. I ask that we show this kind of love to people in person. Good on you for keeping his memory alive. And may he rest in peace. How are you? I'm better now. I stopped playing competitive hockey after that though. We were both trying to go pro. But I wasn't willing after that or without him. He was a better player than me and did a lot to bring me up. I'm so glad to hear you're doing better now. It must have been very traumatizing to go through something like that. My deepest sympathy goes out to you. I had a good friend die at my house years back. He had taken Subutex or Suboxone unbeknownst to me. I was tired and needed to go to bed. He wanted me to hang out, so I smoked some cigarettes with him, and we drove to the quick stop for a beer. Hung out a little longer, and he looked like he was trashed. So I put him and his sleeping girlfriends, my roommate, bed and put on season 3 of House MD and said goodnight. He ended up overdosing and died in his sleep. Sent a good number of the friend group down dark paths after that, myself included. It's getting better for me now at least, and several others are sober finally. Always felt like he was wanting to hang out longer, so I could keep him alive. Was that all he had taken? It can be hard to odd on buprenorphine, since it has an effect ceiling where higher doses don't have further effect, but if he had zero tolerance to opiates, most people get Suboxone/Subutex to wean off of opiates, which is why I ask. Or if he drank on top of it. That makes sense. Either way, I'm so sorry you had to see and go through that. Take solace in knowing that at least he was likely completely unaware and passed peacefully while sleeping, which is still awful, but slightly less so than something painful or violent. I hope you're doing okay these days. Don't hesitate to get some help and talk to someone if you need. Even if it's been a while and you feel mostly fine. That kind of trauma can creep back in unexpected ways. Take care of yourself, friend. I'll second what this guy said. Suboxone is really difficult to accidentally odd. That is the reason it is used. Don't take this guy's mistake personal. I really hope you get the help you need to move past this. It wasn't your fault. I was maybe 16 and had planted a huge vegetable garden in our backyard. My grandma came over and I was super excited to show her since she absolutely loved plants and gardening. She comes over and started pulling weeds in my garden. One was especially hard to pull out and she fell backwards and hit her head on a paver stone. Had a brain bleed and was in a care home not knowing who anyone was and unable to walk or move her hands for the rest of her life. I technically didn't kill her, but I think the outcome was worse than death. Edit. Just wanted to say thanks for all the support and concern. I did therapy after it happened, and no, it wasn't my fault. I still garden and still don't pull weeds as much as I probably should. Stupid weeds. /T technically didn't kill her, nothing technical about it. You didn't kill her. Nor was her condition your fault at all. I don't know if it's the same. I did CPR on a guy who died. He was the first person I ever did CPR on. Since then, I've done CPR on an infant that died, a little girl that drowned, and she died, then on a grown woman who lived. Well, if it makes you feel any better, your CPR success rate is above average. Thanks. After doing it so many times, I'll do CPR on anyone now. Who are me next? Enjoy your broken ribs.